The latest that we can ascribe the finalization of the text is to that time of the Babylonian exile, which means that there are some scholars who place the completion of the Torah to after the actual exile took place. These days, though, that school is not in much favor, and most scholars feel it was more or less intact at the time of the late monarchy, and therefore before the exile. Yes?
Yeah, I'll try to scope it before. But before, at the time of that exile, the first exile, that is evidence about Jewish communities in Babylon before the exile. And it seems strange that suddenly, 7 years later, they lose people with everything. There must have been some Jewish community in Babylon before.
Well, from a traditional standpoint, our traditional sources say no. That was the remarkable thing, remarkable in a negative way, that we had assimilated so quickly, and we even have this big to-do about the intermarriage that took place that Ezra has to address at this time. What we have to understand is the exile was a process. It was a process wherein the higher strata, the royals and the court were taken out, then the nobles and the soldiers are taken out, then the middle segment, your middle class, your merchant class, your city people are taken out, then finally the peasants are removed. And that this took several years to accomplish. We also have evidence to the fact that assimilation was going on before they left Israel. And something we have to understand, we are very used to the concept that Israel is the antidote to assimilation. If your kids move there, they'll certainly stay Jewish. Even if they just spend the summer there, that's a good shot in the arm, and it helps make you and keep you Jewish. Well, as we might know through first-hand or personal experience, you can go to Israel and marry a Gentile, and you can go and spend not just a summer, but years in Israel and come back and marry one. So there's no guarantee. We can also see in Israeli society that it is a very assimilationist society. It's a society that feels very American, that feels very European, that feels very Western in its outlook as much as it does Jewish. And there's a new generation growing up there. When we see the cases of assimilation in pre-19th century world history, the cases of assimilation are most poignant in the land, and where we maintain our identity most stubbornly is in the diaspora, in the exile. It's in the land where we see the greatest assimilationist tendencies in history. This is during the Hasmonean rule. This is before the Maccabean revolt, and partially what led to the Maccabean revolt. And this was going on before the Babylonian exile. In the book of Daniel, there is this messenger addressing the people on the walls of Jerusalem, and he's calling for an interpreter to speak Hebrew to them. And the people on the wall yell, "Don't worry about the interpreter, just speak to us. We all understand Aramaic." And then the book of Daniel changes to Aramaic from that point on. This is before the exile. The Jews of Jerusalem were already Aramaic speakers. Now, does this mean that they were Aramaic speakers to the exclusion of Hebrew? We don't know. One of the things that archaeologists can't find is what a people were speaking. Now, what they were writing in may have absolutely no relevance to what they were speaking, because what we're finding, what they wrote in was the sacred tongue, was the tongue of scholars, was still Hebrew. The vernacular for the average folks may have already been Aramaic, and it shouldn't be so startling. There are periods in history when, through conquest and trade, a certain society's language becomes very universal. It's English right now. It was once French. It was once Latin. It was once Greek. And in that part of the world at that time, it was Aramaic, the language of the all-conquering Assyrians. That was the language that everyone spoke. Later on, it would be Greek, and the Greek language would become very important in the development of Judaism, the Septuagint and other documents. Culturally, it would become very significant, for better or for worse, but it would be very significant. And the only reason that Latin culture didn't permeate is that Israel was part of the East, that remained always culturally Greek, even during the height of the Roman Empire. Which is why when it divided politically, it was an easy and organic division between two cultures. Any other questions or comments so far? Go ahead.
In the conflict here between this class and the million, I remember the Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. And the Talmud Torah Keneged, that's what on here, not there.
Well, there are different ways to connect with God, and this is a way that we connect with God cerebrally, and for many, tefillah is a way to connect with God on other spiritual and emotional ends. And one of the good things about, I don't call it a conflict, one of the good things about the parallel scheduling is that if they don't have their minyan, they can borrow from us. And since we're Jews, we always borrow and lend interest-free. That means that you don't have to have any interest in going down there. Anyone else?
Yeah, but the commentary to Neged Columbus is more important than a whole lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
The bartering of a bride, the burying of the dead, all of that stuff.
There's a Talmud Chacham. Very good.
Some Talmud Chacham, yeah. But it lists
Correct.
maybe a half a dozen very, very important things that we're supposed to do, and the teaching of Torah supersedes them all. Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. It has been said that if you have these 5 books of Moses and nothing else, and it's in a vacuum, you can't learn anything about Judaism, about what to do, about how to be Jewish. You can't learn how to put tefillin on, or what tefillin are from, you shall put them as a sign between your eyes, and they shall be a symbol on your arm. You can't learn about shechita, about kashrut, about anything. It all depends on what Judaism is, who needs the instructions, and how detailed they need to be. When Judaism was something other than it is now, and it was once, this was a very detailed and instructional guide. And we will read the following instructions. This shall be the law of the leper in the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought unto the priest. Very real world, very important. Leprosy was a dangerous and contagious illness, and very real and prevalent in the ancient world. The priest shall go forth out of the camp, and the priest shall look and behold, if the plague of leprosy be healed in the leper. Then shall the priest command to take for him that is to be cleansed 2 living clean birds, cedar wood, scarlet, and hyssop. And the priest shall command to kill one of the birds in an earthen vessel over running water. He doesn't give the cc's for the hyssop. Okay. As for the living bird, he shall take it and the cedar wood and the scarlet and the hyssop, and shall dip them and the living bird in the blood of the bird that was killed over the running water. Very detailed. And he shall sprinkle upon him that is to be cleansed from the leprosy 7 times, and shall pronounce him clean, and shall let go the living bird into the open field.
And how many times do you put the stick in the dog? It sounds like voodoo.
It does, doesn't it? This is from, now, I am not reading this from an Akkadian legend or the Epic of Gilgamesh. This is Mitzorah from Vayikra. This is right out of the Chumash. No commentary, right out of there. Leprosy was very real. Leprosy was very prevalent. It was part of the real world. And if you look at this, at Mitzorah, and even at the parsha before at Tazria, you will see the Kohen as a trained diagnostician to look at various growths and bumps, discoloration, strange hairs, all these things to heal them. A little bit more of detail. And this is detail that we do live with today. These are the living things which you may eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parts the hoof and is wholly cloven-footed and chews the cud among the beasts, that may you eat. Nevertheless, these shall you not eat of them that only chew the cud, or of them that only part the hoof. In case you were wondering, what if it has one and not both? The camel, because he chews the cud but parteth not the hoof. And it will go on to a whole list of these. So the Torah was very detailed and very instructional for the audience for which it was originally intended in the time of Jay, which was an elite at the top of society. It was intended for the Kohanim exclusively. Oh, but how can our Holy Torah be intended for the Kohanim exclusively? Judge these things in historical context. Religion always belonged to a caste of priests everywhere in this part of the world. We come the closest to popularizing it the earliest. But the document originally is meant for the priests. And the priests would orally instruct the people on what they're supposed to do. These foods are permitted, these foods are forbidden. When this happens to you, come see me. Take 2 tablets and I'll see you in the morning. That's Moses. Okay.